officially welcome all of you to our 2026 applicant webinar, where we aim to peel the curtain a little bit into our process for selection, the application, and tell you more about the program so that you can better be prepared for the application process. And if you haven't already, please do let us know where you are joining from. It's so fun to see the variety of countries and regions represented. Samuel from Cameroon, we got Bruce from Kenya. Please do continue to say hello in the chat. It's so fun to see where you're all from. And yes, we are here to talk about EE 30 under 30. You see, this is our class from 2025. And again, it is time to select our next class of 2026. And our call for nominations is currently open. You've got until the end of the month to submit your nominations. So we are here to hopefully answer all of your questions. And a little bit about Zoom before we dive in. Please do use the chat. Many of you have found that already in your intros, but please use the chat to join the conversation. Ask us all the questions that are top of mind for you, and we'll get to as many as we can in the hour that we've got. Additionally, if you would like any additional support with live captioning, you can do that. Also head to your toolbar, select that CC button, and you can show live transcription in your language of choice. Okay, so our agenda for today. We're going to spend just a few minutes at the top of the hour talking a little bit about us. We'll introduce ourselves, talk more about our organization that we represent, how we support this program, and then we'll get into the program, EE 30 under 30. We'll give you some background information, a little bit more about the goals and objectives of EE 30 under 30, and then we'll spend the bulk of the call diving into the nitty-gritty details about how to apply and how to best set yourself up to get a bang-out application. We've got some time at the very end for Q&A, but as I mentioned earlier, please do enter your questions in the chat as you think of them, and we'll be taking them throughout our call today. And if you haven't noticed, we are recording this call, so if you are furiously jotting notes, don't feel like you have to do that all for the whole hour. We will be sharing the recording on our website in the next couple of days. Any logistical housekeeping stuff from you, Madeline, before we get started?
No, that's great. We can start.
Okay. So let's just do a quick intro of who's talking to you today. My name is Anne. I'm part of the NAAEE team. I am the Director of Leadership, Conservation, and International Programs, and I'm here with my colleague, Madeline. Madeline, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, thanks, Anne. Hi, everyone. My name is Madeline Helvey. I'm part of the international programs team as well at NAAEE. And yeah, so excited to be here and talk to you all about 30 under 30.
Nice. Thank you, Madeline. And the two of us are here to answer all of your questions, but we'll also be the ones interacting with you the most throughout your experience of 30 under 30. All right, so I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes here talking a little bit more about NAAEE. It is a bit of a mouthful, but we are the professional association. We are the champion, the cheerleader, the backbone organization supporting the entire field of environmental education. And we do work in North America, Canada, the US, and Mexico, but honestly, we work with organizations, communities, and individuals all over the world to advance environmental education. And EE 30 under 30 is one of those global programs that we manage. So that is us, and it's an acronym, and saying it typically in English, we say NAAEE. So if I hear you say that, our organization that way, I know you're an NAAEE friend. Okay, a little bit more about the group that has been supporting EE 30 under 30 since the beginning. That is the JEEP. That is another acronym for you to know. The JEEP stands for the Global Environmental Education Partnership. So this is a pretty cool international learning network. And its entire aim is to build capacity and strengthen EE all over the world. And so we work with individuals, organizations, governments that are really thinking about how EE, how environmental education can advance a more sustainable future. All right, so it's the Jeep that is a huge partner of EE 30 under 30. Okay, so there isn't a quiz at the end, but these are just important things to know as you're putting your application together. Okay, so let's dive into the program EE 30 under 30. And as you know, the name suggests that we select 30 individuals that are all under 30 years of age by, I think it's March 31st. So if you are under 30, if you're 30 and below by the end of this month, you are eligible to apply. And our aim is to recognize and build the next generation of leadership, global leadership. These are individuals advancing EE in many different ways in many different countries. And as you'll see, we are all over the world. Maybe check and see if your country is represented so far. Right now, we've got 301 alumni from 57 countries. If your country is not yet represented here, maybe you'll be the next one to represent your country. We are going strong 10 years, and we are just really thrilled that we're able to do this, run this program, and we've been doing it every year for the past 10 years. And our aim, there's three main goals of this program. In addition to that recognition piece, which is so important, we focus on that recognition because it allows young emerging leaders to enhance their confidence, gain the credibility needed to scale up their work and get some bigger impact. We also provide this growing community. I mentioned that there are 301 individuals and growing now, but you get to join this global community of other amazing EE leaders doing fantastic and creative things all over the world. So that is a big plus of this program, is to be part of that community. And then lastly, we really try to focus on what skills and professional development are needed, what technical support is needed to help you be the best leaders to face today's growing environmental challenges. So this whole program focuses on all these three areas as you are getting that recognition. And there's a fun photo here of some alumni at the 2024 NAAEE conference. Okay, I'm checking the chat to see if there are any questions so far, and I don't see anything quite yet. The last thing I'm going to mention about the program is that every several years we do have the ability sometimes to provide some changemaker grants. So these are small mini grants, seed funding essentially, to support the work that you are doing at the local level. And this year, we were able to support these 9 individuals that are doing some pretty cool work all over the globe. So every now and then, we are fortunate to be able to do that. Okay, I am going to take the next few moments to get into a little bit some of the definitions, some of the working definitions we're using to describe environmental education and leadership. And so those are the two pillars that are really the core of this program, of what this program is trying to achieve, is how are we supporting environmental education in the field, and how are we also supporting some young emerging creative leaders in the field. And so how we are defining environmental education is here on the screen. And I'm just going to quickly go over this. EE, it helps individuals, communities, and organizations learn more about the environment and also develop the skills and understanding about how to address global challenges. If you are doing this work, you will see yourself in this definition of EE. You're also equipping people with the knowledge, the skills, and the motivation to be really better stewards of the environment. And we also define EE as a process, a learning process of how to make informed decisions. We often say that environmental education is teaching people how to think, not what to think. So we're really diving into that critical thinking, creative thinking skills of how to solve environmental problems. And we also say that environmental education equals lifelong learning. You are working with children at the youngest ages, and you're also working with adults. So it includes a broad audience of people. And we say that environmental education happens anywhere and everywhere, from schools to communities to museums to universities to nature centers. It happens anywhere that learning can happen. Okay, so that is our broad working definition of environmental education. And then as we think about leadership, we are looking for individuals that are leading change, not only among themselves and like internal motivation and inspiration, but how are you also inspiring others in your communities, your organizations, in your network to lead and inspire change? So we do take this broader definition of leadership, and we say that you don't necessarily have to be in a leadership position to be a leader in your network. Okay, so if you do have questions about that, we can take them. And I'm trying to see if there are any questions in the chat so far. I don't see any. Madeline, do you think I missed anything in that first part about NAAEE leadership?
No, no, that's great. And like Anne mentioned, if you have any questions right now about what we've talked about so far, feel free to let us know, either in the chat or if you want to raise your hand. And then we'll have some more time at the end as well to go through questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madeline. And then I'm turning it over to you, who you're going to help us kind of parse through the application process, and all the different elements. So whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Sounds great. And can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And hi again for any of you just joining. My name is Madeline, and I work with Anne on the NAAEE team, supporting our international programs, which includes EE 30 under 30. I'm going to spend a short time walking through our application, our nomination form, and also some overall advice from our past reviewers. And then, like I mentioned, we'll open it up for questions. Just as I talk through the nomination, I'm going to be talking as if you're nominating yourself. But remember that you can nominate someone else as well as part of this program. So the most important thing is that nominations are due on March 31st. So at the end of this month, make sure that you know your own time zone. It might be different from where we are here in Eastern Time in the United States. So make sure you've got that nailed down. And we will try to nominate or try to notify all nominees by the end of August. If anything changes, we'll let you know. But that is our goal. A little bit about eligibility. So first, like I just mentioned, you can either nominate yourself or you can nominate someone else. So if you're here and you're like, well, I'm over 30 right now, so I don't know if I'm eligible, you can nominate a colleague or a friend or someone else who you think is a great match. You can also nominate as many people as you'd like, but you do need a separate application, a separate nomination form for each person. So, who is eligible? Folks who are 30 years old or younger on March 31st, which is the nomination due date. People who use environmental education in their work and who also demonstrate leadership through that environmental education work. And then being able to complete the application in English, we do have a part of the form that we'll talk about in just a minute here that includes a video from you. And so being able to complete that in English, and it doesn't have to be good English, but just being able to submit in English. And then we can accept nominations from anywhere in the world. So I want to walk through, there's four main parts to the nomination form that I'd like to walk through us today. And so the first one, if you are nominating yourself, the first part is a short video introduction. And so this just gives us a little bit of open space to tell us your story, tell us about you, introduce yourself in an informal way. You have 90 seconds or less to kind of introduce who you are, your background, your passions, what led you to the work that you're doing today. And this is just a way for the reviewers to kind of connect with you on a more personal level. The rest of the nomination form includes written response questions that kind of dive more into your work. And so this video gives you a chance to be yourself and show us who you are. And we also include a written response box on the bottom of this video where you can elaborate on anything that couldn't fit in your video since we do have a time limit here. Now, if you are nominating someone else, your nominee will be asked to submit a video as part of their letter of support. So this is our first part. What's your story? What do you want us to know about you? How did you end up where you are today in the field of EE? A few video tips just from what we've seen in the past couple of years. Uh, the, the best videos that we have are short. They stay within our 90-second time frame. They make it personal. They kind of let us know their passions and about themselves. They talk to the camera, so just an informal video with a quiet background. We really don't recommend adding any additional photos or music or audio tracks or anything like that. It can really just be super informal. They have good lighting so we can see you. And also keep it at a normal speed. We do sometimes see videos that are like sped up and we can't adjust that. And so sometimes that's difficult for reviewers to hear through the whole video and what you're trying to say. And one note is that we highly encourage you not to use AI or any AI generated content, especially in your video, but also in your written responses. We want to hear from you as a person. I would say you can use AI for things like grammar checking or brainstorming, but we want the core of the content to come from you. So that was the first part. That is the video. The second question on the nomination is how are you using education to engage people in building a sustainable future? And so here we want you to focus on work that you have done or are currently doing rather than things that you plan to do. So what are the goals or the issues that you're addressing? What activities or approaches are you using to reach that goal? Who is your audience? What are maybe any positive outcomes you've seen from your work so far, such as the number of people that you've reached and what impacts your work has had on those people? So really be clear about your role in any of these initiatives. Maybe spend some time talking about your EE goals and activities here. And then in the next question, it's a little more about your leadership qualities. So this is really about what's the core of your work in EE and what does that look like? And then I just want to mention, if you are a part of a team, we want to know what role you played in this EE work. So maybe you're the manager managing some team members. Maybe you are part of the marketing department, or maybe you're helping with implementation or planning or building partnerships. Really describe what role you took in the work that you're doing. We do recommend looking at NAAEE's webpage on what is EE and why it matters. And that's a resource that we will email to you for more information about our approach and definition of EE, kind of an expansion of what Anne was addressing earlier today. But overall, we want some details about how you're working within your community or with whatever audience level that is to equip them with the tools and skills to make informed decisions about the environment. Okay, moving on to question 3. This is about your leadership qualities, and we want to recognize, like Anne mentioned earlier, leadership means different things to different people, and it can look very different across disciplines and work and things like that. So this is your opportunity to describe for the reviewers why you see yourself as a leader. What does leadership look like to you and in the work that you do? Again, be as specific as you can here about why you are a leader. You can talk about a specific situation that demonstrates the leadership qualities that you talk about. So whatever leadership traits that you mention about yourself, it's really great to have an example to kind of show those traits in action. We do have several examples of leadership provided in the nomination form and on our EE 30 under 30 webpage. So things like leading a project, overcoming a major challenge, mentoring or inspiring others, bringing people together toward a common vision. So I guess what I'm trying to say is leadership doesn't have to be those things, but those are some examples. And so we want to see, what does leadership look like to you, and describe that for us. Okay, and the fourth part of the nomination form is to tell us why you want to join the EE 30 under 30 community. How might you benefit from it or grow from it? How would you contribute to the community? Mostly we ask this because our 30 under 30 community thrives on active engagement from our alumni and our current awardees. And so we want to know, how would you be involved in the community? If you're nominating someone else, we will ask your nominee the same question through their letter of support. Which leads me to the letter of support. So for all nominations, a letter of support is required with the same deadline of March 31st. So we encourage you to notify your reference as soon as possible. And you can do this before you're ready to submit your nomination form. So let me see if you can see my mouse here. You're able to type in their email address. You can add a personalized message if you want to, and you can hit send request now, all before you submit your nomination form. Then you can continue working on your nomination form and submit that at a later date. This gives your reference a little extra time to submit their letter of support. If you're nominating yourself, the letter of support will be an invitation to someone who is going to submit a letter on your behalf. Perhaps it's someone who can describe your leadership really well in your EE work. Maybe it's a colleague, someone like that. If you're nominating someone else, the letter of support will invite your nominee to submit their video and answer a couple of brief written response questions. I'm going to pause really quickly before I move on to overall advice. Do we have any initial questions about the nomination form?
Madeline, there were a couple of questions in the chat that I attempted to answer, but I want to see if you want to elaborate further. There's a question from Anna asking about whether a self-nomination or a nomination from somebody else, if they're considered differently. And if can you elaborate on that? I know you mentioned a little bit about how applications are organized. Either you can say more or just say a little bit more about that, the difference.
Yeah, definitely. So the two nomination forms, whether you're nominating yourself or someone else, they look different because they're structured a little bit differently to accommodate for the needs. But we collect the exact same information from both types of nomination forms. And so when reviewers are looking at them, they don't judge them any differently. I wouldn't say that nominating someone else or nominating yourself comes across any stronger one way or the other. And we get mostly a pretty even and consistent number of both types of nominations that both apply and end up succeeding and becoming an awardee for the year. Does that answer the question?
I think it does. Thank you, Madeline. Definitely a better answer than I provided in the chat. Let's see. There's another question from Anna, and Anna asks, can multiple people, can they be nominated separately from the same organization, or whether that's not encouraged? So do you ever see that people receive multiple nominations, and does that make a difference in the application process?
Yes, so we do see that, and we do have what we call a joint nomination. And so if you have, let's say, two people that are doing very similar work from the same organization or the same company, I might encourage you to consider that. What you do there is you would nominate each person separately, so they would each get their own nomination form. But on the form, there is a question that says, do you want to be considered for a joint nomination? And then if you say yes, you put the second person's name in. So if someone named Sarah is someone you're nominating, and then Anna, you're also nominating yourself, you can say, I want to be considered in a joint nomination with Sarah. And Sarah would say the same thing with Anna. I hope that helps. But the overall question or overall answer is yes, you can submit several nominations for different people from the same company. They just each need their own nomination form submitted.
Sounds good. I'm trying to see. Luis is asking again, is it, someone else nominates you or is it the same as you nominate yourself? And I think, Madeline, you highlighted pretty specifically that those applications are considered the same, whether you're nominated from someone else or whether you nominate yourself and that we get about an equal number of folks doing both options. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Maybe think about who has the time and the capacity to submit the best, highest quality application. That might be you, it might be somebody else.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yes. And then let's see, we've got a question too from Divya. What are some of the things that stand out in a reference letter? Um, I'll just say here, Divya, that because I've reviewed applications over several years, and I would say the thing that stands out to me are specifics and details. If somebody can give numerous examples of your leadership, your passion, your vision, and they're really grounded in very specific details of the work that you do, then I can tell that this is someone that knows you deeply and meaningfully, and that always stands out to me. Another thing that stands out to me are the stories that your reference letter can tell about where they've been able to see you in action, because those are the things that our reviewers will remember. It's like, oh yeah, they spoke specifically about this one thing that this person did. So I would say, to the extent that you can encourage those stories and those memorable details, that's what's going to stand out in a reference letter. Let's see. Madeline, you getting all the questions here. Um, Madeline, question for you from Mercy. Can you add more than one email for the reference letter? What do you say about that?
Oh, that's a great question. So, unfortunately, you cannot. You can only add one email. However, I will say if your reference ends up not being able to submit a letter, you can email us and we'll help you remove that email and you can send it to a different person. Yeah. So, just one email. If it doesn't work out, let us know and we'll help you get a change so you can send that to somebody else. Any other questions before we move on?
I think we're good for now. There's a couple
Okay.
of other questions about the benefits, so we can hit those towards the end, but I would say keep going.
All right, sounds great. So we're going to talk a little bit about some overall advice here. And this is from what we've seen over the past several years working with these nominations, but also from our reviewers and our reviewer feedback, what they've seen from the strongest nominations. So first, like Anne just mentioned, concrete examples really help make a strong nomination, particularly with the EE and the leadership questions really paint a clear picture for the reviewers as they read your nomination. Along those same lines, more detail is better. If you'll see that we have a word count, a word limit for each question. You can use that as your guide here. We don't allow supplemental documents, and so all of your responses really is the core of what you're showing the reviewers. So really use that to your advantage. If you've been awarded other awards or recognitions in the past, that's not really something that we consider for this award. And so we would rather hear about your passions and your work and what you've accomplished through EE efforts instead of listing past recognitions in your written responses. And then this is something that we've seen come up recently as we kind of see more disciplines engaging in EE. There's a lot of nominees that will often use jargon or maybe some philosophies that other fields may not be familiar with. And so we would just recommend if you're in a niche field or if you use language in your field that is pretty niche, if you could explain that for reviewers including how you use those terms in your work. So that will really help us. So for example, if you're really heavy into some type of research endeavor through EE, make sure that you're explaining any really scientific terms, for example. And then start early. You have a few weeks left now before nominations are due. So if you're considering submitting a nomination, go ahead and just notify your reference now. Send them an email. Take your time on the nomination form. You can save it as a draft as you work and come back to it. We also have offline versions on our webpage. We have PDF and Word, Microsoft Word versions that you can use if you want to work offline. Make sure that you do submit your final nomination online, though, through Submittable. And then overall, we've mentioned this again and again, but this is really our priorities. We want to hear your story. We want to hear about your work and your impact, but also your motivations, your visions for the future, who you are as an EE leader. And then just two more common pieces of feedback that we get from reviewers each year is that reviewers really wish nominees would provide more examples of their EE work beyond awareness raising about an issue. So we do receive several nominees that do amazing and essential work to raise awareness or to advocate about a specific environmental issue or species or about the environment in general. And this is all work that is really important and we appreciate this. But for this program, we're looking for leaders that use EE to empower their audience to think critically, to solve environmental issues. So like we mentioned earlier, not teaching folks what to think, but teaching them how to think. And then additionally, reviewers note that nominees will often list their leadership qualities, but not provide examples. This is something that I was talking about when we were talking through our leadership question. So again, as you think through what makes you a leader, point to ways that you can demonstrate those leadership traits in action. And then finally, we do have an FAQ on our website that you can look through, addresses our most common questions. But if you have any others that are not addressed there, you can always email us or you can ask us now. We'll open it up for questions very soon. So encourage you to explore our webpage, 30 Under 30. This is the link here. Maybe we can put that in the chat if possible. And if not, we'll send you an email with this as well. This is where you can access the online application. You can access Submittable. You can preview the application through Word or PDF documents. Just note that if you work offline at all, you will have to copy and paste that information into Submittable to submit your nomination. You can use our promotional toolkit to spread the word through your networks, on your social media. We'll post the recording of this webinar on the homepage there. And then we also have a lot of alumni biographies that we encourage you to explore for some inspiration. That was everything from me about the nomination form. I have a feeling we're getting some questions in the chat because I'm seeing some movement there. So Anne, what do you have
Yes,
for us?
there are some movement. But before we get to those, I just want to emphasize what you said. The very last bullet you had was you mentioned the biographies of our 30 under 30 awardees over the last 10 years. And I would say that I want to emphasize that is a treasure trove of information. You get to read about all the different people that we've decided to recognize that have earned this award. Go and check those pages out and see, do you have, similar or adjacent leadership qualities or experience in environmental education? And see if there are other individuals that are also from your country or your region of the world where you live, where you work, that might provide some additional context for you. And then many of these individuals are on LinkedIn. Start following them, follow their social media profiles, and they're so friendly. If you wanted to reach out to them and ask them for advice, or what, I think there was a question in the chat from Peter that said, what are some of the benefits? You can see, how are they talking about the benefits on LinkedIn or on social media? Are they talking about 30 under 30? How are they describing their own career pathways and the changes that they've seen since this recognition? So you don't have to take our word for it. I think the best thing to do is to reach out to those individuals and see how they've been recognized for the work that they've done, to really get a sense of the value of this program. So I just wanted to emphasize that, and that's all on our website. You can learn more about them. Okay, let me stop for a second and take a look at this chat. Mercy is asking, if you're working on an organization, if you're in an organization working in the EE field, do you mention the team or mainly what I do as an individual? Do you want to take that, Madeline?
Yes, great question. I think I would say we would like to see both. We definitely want to understand what kind of EE work that you're doing, and a lot of times we know that that involves collaboration with a team, and so definitely describe that. But then within that, if you can tell us what role that you specifically as an individual are doing as part of that team in EE, that's really important too. And we want to know more about just your work, for example. So you could also describe as an individual what led you to this work, for example, or what are some of your your goals that you have in mind as you're doing this work with your team.
Nice. And Anna is also asking, and Anna's asking some good questions today. I'm glad you're here, Anna. Anna's asking, does length of time in the EE role affect consideration of the application? And I'm going to attempt to answer this, but Madeline, please chime in if I get anything wrong. I would say, Anna, that we are expecting not so many years of experience in the EE field because we are, in particular, looking at emerging leaders. So these are folks that are new to the field of EE, and we're not expecting that you've got, 20 years of experience. However, what we are going to be looking at instead of the length of time, we probably want to be looking at what's more compelling is that what you've been able to achieve in a shorter period of time. You should also know that we've recognized individuals that were 17, 18 years old. And so it's not necessarily that they have decades of experience doing this work, but in a short period of time, they were able to accomplish a lot and have great impact. So I think that's a more compelling story is what you're achieving, the pathways that you're taking, not necessarily the time in the field. Would you add to that, Madeline?
No, I think that's exactly what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. But Anna, I know you've got some more questions for us, so I'm gonna keep scrolling through here while we wait for more questions from you. Let's see. Oh, there's some questions about you know, specific character limitations. Do you remember that off the top of your head, Madeline?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I want to say it's between 300 and 500 words that they can use in their reference letter. But if you run into any issues with that, Luis, just let us know and we can see what we can do.
Yeah, thank you. And every single section for each question, it tells you what the maximum is. And it'll cut you off eventually, so there's no way around that. Let's see. And then Nolis is asking, what if your reference letter uses AI without you knowing, to write their letter? To be honest, we can't really control that. We don't know what other people are doing on our behalf, but you can, Nolis, you can give them the same guidance that we're giving you, that we are really hoping that you can complete your letter, your reference letter, and your application using your own words with limited AI assistance. But I would say do the best you can, and let your reference know that, we've got certain expectations, but yeah, you definitely can't control what others are doing. Let's see. Oh, Divya has a good question here, Madeline. I'm gonna throw this to you. Divya is asking, do you think it's worthwhile or beneficial to mention the future plans that you have of your EE work and how that might shape your leadership? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say it's great to mention that. If you've already got EE work, definitely focus on what you've done or what you're currently doing. But we do want to know, like, what are your motivations? What's your vision for the future? So definitely mention what's on your radar for the future. What are your long-term goals? And then, yeah, how does that shape your leadership? That would be great to include.
That's a great question. And yes, if you wanted to have some aspirational, visions for what you want to achieve in the next 5 years or something like that, that would be kind of fun to read what you have envisioned for yourself, what your goals are, as Madeline said, and give us a better sense of your leadership style and, like Madeline said, your motivation for wanting to apply for this program. So very cool. Trying to see if there's anything we may have missed. And another invitation to please enter your questions in the chat.
I see one from Bruce. And Bruce, I think you're just asking, is it okay to mention two types of EE work or through two different organizations that you're working with? Let me know if that's not the right interpretation of your question, but if that is, I would say that yes, you can mention all types of EE work that you're doing, including if you've got like two different projects going on simultaneously. So you can kind of give us a little bit about each one and what you're doing on each. What's your role? What are the activities or the efforts through those two projects or two organizations? Let me know if that doesn't answer what you've asked, though.
And let's see, we just got a question in from Lily. Lily's asking, what stood out to you in the videos in the past? Was it clarity, conciseness, good storytelling? What would you say, Madeline?
Oh, this is a good question. And it's tough because there's so many different people that nominate themselves or someone else and so many amazing videos. I would say what stands out is some really great energy, telling us about you and kind of showing us your passions through the way that you're speaking is really what stands out for me.
I would add that the same, that I really notice the emotion. I know there's only so much that you can share in a video versus meeting somebody in person, but it's the emotion that really stands out to me. Anything that I watch that gets me to like nod my head in agreement, like, yes, I agree with this person is saying, I want to support this person. Anything that gets me to feel that connection is going to stand out to me. And I would also suggest, run the video by your friends, your family members, get some initial feedback. What some of the difficulties that I have had in the past is if I can't hear you clearly, the audio is a little off, or if I can't really see you. Those are some just really minor technical distractions that take away from your overall message. So I would say, get someone else, a trusted friend or colleague to watch your video and give you their honest feedback. What else? Let's see. Divya has another question here. Divya is asking, and don't apologize for the questions. I love all the questions. You never know who else is thinking the same thing and just doesn't type as fast as you. So Divya is asking, do you think it's better to mention a little bit of everything or dive deep into one or two projects? Hmm.
This is a tough one.
Mm-hmm. I would say, I mean, it depends what your typical experience and strategy is. I would say like if you are a generalist and your goals are to be a leader and to touch on as many different parts and aspects of your community as possible, then I think it's okay to mention a little bit of everything because that would demonstrate the breadth of your experience and your interest. However, if your number one thing is this one specific issue, then I would let that shine in your application. So I would say that, collectively, each cohort, we'll have generalists and specialists. So you don't have to be everything, but I would say make sure your application reflects you to the best way that you can. So if you're a generalist and if you've got lots of interests, let that shine in your application. Don't be afraid to do that. Um, what else? Madeline, are you seeing other questions you want to highlight?
I do see one from Seth who's asking if they can make the video in a different language and then add English subtitles. That's a really great question. And the answer is yes, that you can. So if you do have your video in a different language, make sure that you're either including subtitles throughout the video or there's a box underneath the video submission where you can add a transcript, and that would be really helpful. So please, if you can just add English subtitles or an English transcript, that would be very helpful for our reviewers.
Very good. And let's see, we've got another question here, Nola, from Nolis, Madeline. And Nolis is asking, is it okay to highlight all of what you do with EE work? We use sports, the arts, or should the applicant just highlight one? So that's a similar question of what Divya said. I would say that if you've got this creative approach where you're using a lot of different tactics and a lot of different ways to engage a broad audience like sports and the arts, I would mention it. I would mention it, especially if it's something that you feel passionate about and something that you're good at, definitely mention it. Maybe you dive deep into one and like, use your word count in another section to elaborate more on sports or something else, but I think there's ways to highlight the broad swath of all the different ways you're using you're promoting environmental education. Let's see. Did we miss anything, Madeline?
I don't think so. I'm just looking back through. I don't know if
Ma-
I saw a hand or not.
Madeline, can I add one thing?
Yeah, definitely.
About the transcripts and subtitles, sometimes if you realize that your video, the audio quality is not very good, we would really appreciate having a transcript added along with it. So just check your video and see how the audio quality comes through.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Preeti. And Preeti is part of our team as well. So she also looks through nominations and has seen several in the past. That's a really great point, is that especially if you maybe don't have the accessibility to technology or great internet service or things like that, and your video may come across a little grainy or maybe hard to hear, if you could just add a transcript anyway for us, that would be really helpful. I'm not seeing any other questions, so I can move on to a couple resources before we
Awesome.
close out today. But again, last couple minutes that we have together, if you've got anything that you want to ask us now, we've got about 10 minutes. And so just two resources from our team. So the NAAEE Conference and Research Symposium in 2026. So we host an annual conference and research symposium each year. We have one this year in 2026. I'll be in person in Portland in the United States, which is on the West Coast. And so we are looking for presentations right now where we have our call for presentations open until April 10th. If you are interested in submitting a proposal to present at the conference. If you have any questions, you can visit our website, conference.naaee.org, or let us know if you have any questions and we can help you with that. And then one really great resource I wanted to mention before we close out is EE Pro, which is NAAEE's online hub for environmental education professional development. There's a lot of things to do on EE Pro, and it's totally free to sign up, so I encourage you to check it out. But there's a lot of different ways to network with other people, to discuss important issues, to access and share resources. And there are a lot of topical groups that you can join, including one for global environmental education and one for young professionals, which I encourage you to sign up for both groups if you're already on EE Pro or if you're looking to join. So that is a really great resource there. We're going to send you quite a few URLs in the next couple of days after this. So we'll send you the E30 Under 30 webpage, which hopefully you already have access to now, our contact info, the FAQ page, a few of the resources we mentioned, like the EE modules about what's more about EE and why it matters. We'll send you a link to EE Pro. Anything else that you want to add, Anne, before we close out?
No, just thank you so much for being here. I can tell from your questions that you are really thinking through the application quite seriously. So I'm happy to see the level of detail you're asking us. Um, just another invitation to please, reach out if you do have questions, and we're here if you need anything.
Yeah. Sounds great. Well, we'll stay on a couple minutes just in case anyone wants to ask a question out loud, or you can continue to put them in the chat. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate you being here, and good luck on your nominations.
Thank you. Thanks, Madeline, and thank you, Preeti, for being here, and thanks all of you for being here.